Welcome to Fly on the Wall podcast. I'm your host, Chris Sonksen, CEO and founder of Church Boom. Here you get to sit in on a live coaching session as I coach pastors through the ministry challenges we all face. If you find this podcast helpful, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Hey everyone, welcome to Fly on the Wall. I am so excited that you are joining us today for our episode today with Pastor Joshua. A great conversation that we're having with him about changing culture, and we all deal with that. It's going to be a great conversation. I want to remind you before we jump into that with Joshua to check out churchboom.org. All things churchboom.org is there on the site. We have coaching certification program, Church Boom University, which is an ongoing platform everybody should be a part of, executive coaching. We just have a lot of stuff there, Church Boom Network, so make sure you check out churchboom.org. But let's jump into the conversation with Joshua. We're going to be talking about how do we change culture in the life of a church. How can I serve you today, man?
Yeah, so as I'm going through the roadmap, the Church Boom coaching roadmap, one of the things that Jason's mentioned, I've heard you mention on the podcast a lot, is the 12-week year. And I was just wondering if you can explain that a little bit more in detail, like how do you start, and then when do you, okay, we need to start looking at the next 12 weeks. Obviously, you don't wait till the very end to kick over to the next 12. So kind of your roadmap with that.
Yeah, so kind of I'll kind of just start from the beginning of it. It's not a long roadmap, but from the beginning of it, first of all, I love it because 12-week year just allows people to focus on 12 weeks. I mean, let's be realistic. January 1 rolls around and one of your staff members sets a goal for December 31st, the end of the year, 2025. I mean, they don't even know where to start, how to chop it up, and this whole concept again is kind of eating an elephant a bite at a time kind of a thing. So the idea is go to the end and say, okay, what is it that I want to get done? So you personally or your staff, what do they want to get done by the end of the year? So this is what I want to get done by the end of the year. These 8 things I'd like to accomplish in my ministry. Then all you do is you look at the first 12 weeks and say, okay, what do I need to get done in this first 12 weeks? Because roughly there's 12 weeks in a year. So what do I need to get done in this first 12 weeks? And so it's not everything that needs to get done. It's what's got to get done in this 12 weeks in order to stay on track to have a chance by the end of the year to hit all my 7, 8, 9 goals, whatever it is. So all you're looking at is 5 to 7, 5 to 8 different things. And once you're kind of moving through that, when you get to the next 12, some of that will come back over if you didn't finish it into the next 12, and some of it will be brand new. When you are coaching, keeping your staff accountable, you're going to want to be able to hold them accountable, whether that's every week you meet with them or at least every other week. Because if you figure if you meet every other week, that means every other week is 6 times during a 12-week. So let's say you were my staff member and I'm the pastor. So you set your goals. In 2 weeks, we're going to meet again. All right, how you doing on your 12-week, Josh? Okay, we're doing good here, doing good here. We haven't started that. Okay, let's not forget. Okay, great. 2 more weeks we meet. Now we're a month into it. We're already 33% done. So you and I are going to look at your list. It's not going to be a long meeting. I mean, we might meet on other things, but that portion is only going to be 10 minutes. Okay, where are you at? How are you doing? What do you need to do? What do you think is lacking? Then we meet again. By the time we meet again, we're halfway through it. And that's the beauty of it, I think, Josh, because let's say that we're halfway through it. I'm the lead pastor, you're the associate pastor, and we're halfway through it. I'm looking at you going, Josh, like you're not even this 12-week year, you're barely even had done 20% of it. Or I'm able to say, hey, man, you're on target. Keep going. It's no shock when you get to the 12 weeks that they finished it or didn't finish it. That's the beauty of it. So you don't get to the end of the 12 weeks and go, dude, what happened? It's like, I already know on our second or third meeting if you're going to be able to do it or not, or if you're going to get it done. That also helps by the end of the year, because by the time you get into your second 12-week, you're looking at them going, dude, there's no chance you're going to make it by the end of the year because you're not staying on track. So look at the end in mind, big, hey, we're going to accomplish all this, then break it up into 4 12 weeks, but you only start with the first 12 weeks. You don't write out the second 12 weeks. Just Okay, what 5 things need to get done in the next 12 weeks? What 7 things need to get done in the next 12 weeks? Then you just meet with them to make sure. Now, they may be feeling on track, and you're helping them stay on track in that 12-week year. Or halfway through, they might admit to you, like, hey, I don't know where to start with some of this. I don't know what to do on this, on item number 3. I feel a little intimidated by it, or I just need some help. Now you're able to coach, you're able to play as a lead pastor the coach role and go, okay, let me help you with that. So it's not just, well, get it done. It's like, get it done, but okay, why aren't you getting this one done? Oh, you don't know how to do it? Okay, let me help you with that. And it just is a simple, easy way for them to make progress throughout the entire year. Which, side note, it's always interesting to me when leaders do performance evaluations at the end of the year. At the end of the year, it's too late.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't accomplish everything. It's like, well, yeah, now the whole year's been wasted. But in a 12-week year, you know if they're accomplishing something or not. Yeah. And that's what I love about it. So
okay, awesome. So is that when you would implement like the 3x3 or the 4x4 you've talked about?
Oh, yeah, that's a great one. 3x3, 4x4 is for staff meetings, and yeah, that's not for
staff, not for individual staff.
That is correct. So
Gotcha.
3x3 or 4x4 is 3 things in 3 months or 4 things in 4 months, whatever you want to do. But it's separate in a way. Now, it may show up in one of your staff's 12 weeks because they may be assigned something, but it might not show up in all your staff's 12-week year. But the 3x3, the simple version of it is, I love 3x3s or 4x4s. You put up, okay, staff, what are the 10 things, man, that we just, as a church, not as a youth, not as a children, as a church, what do we need to take, man, our follow-up system for guests is horrible. Our website is a joke. You just kind of go down with all the 10 things 10, 12, 14 things everybody wants to do. And then you're just like, okay, what are the first 3 things we want to do? And then we all say, okay, we all as a staff go, these 3 things we want to get in 90 days. All right, who's going to do what? And how are we going to get it done? And then you just start knocking away all those big projects that have been annoying you, and you're able to finally get them done. That's it.
That annoys us. I love that.
Oh, yeah. But that's like you're sitting at the stoplight getting all frustrated thinking about all the things you need to get done. Oh, yeah. You don't get frustrated now because but here's the cool thing. You don't get frustrated because, you're working on 3 of the 10 things. And number 8 is frustrating to you, but you're going to get it. It's on the whiteboard. It's coming up in the second 3x3. You're good. It makes it really an amazing tool.
Love it. That's awesome. Kind of same vein a little bit with leadership development, but moving off of staff more into just volunteers and things like that inside the church. I just took over a church a couple years ago, 87 years this year. And so it's an old church, very traditional in our district. It's very well known, but there's not a lot of, there actually is no leadership development. And I'd been on staff for 20 years before I took over. And so it's a lot of the former pastors' issues and glaring holes are mine now as well, just as being with him. So I've heard you talk a lot about leadership circles. What's the step after leadership circles to really move people through that leadership, to get them climbing the leadership ladder?
Yeah, absolutely. So, let me ask you real quick. We'll get to leadership circles. You've been at the church for 20 years.
Yes.
But you've been a lead
pastor, executive pastor, and now lead pastor.
And how long have you been the lead pastor?
Just about 3.
And do you feel that the church has the culture you're looking for?
Not yet. Okay. It's getting there. We're moving in that vein, but it's not there yet.
Okay, just as and we'll get to leadership circles, but you mentioned the church is 87 years old, I think. So there's a lot of tradition. There's a lot of all that. Couple thoughts is one is that no church has a future unless its dreams are bigger than its memories. So being able to no church has a future unless its dreams are bigger than its memories. And so, that's a thing that you have to keep in mind. Like we've got to look towards the future. When you're 87 years old, you got a lot of people living in the past. Now, there is one thing I do want to share with you about when you take over a traditional church or a church that's been around for a long time or however you want to say it. There is a magic magic number you're looking for, where there's a tipping point, and that tipping point is 30%.
Okay.
So the culture will begin to shift when 30% of your people are on board. Okay. 30% of your people are all on board. They're totally doing what you want. They're living it. They're a note-taking church. They're a worship church. They shout you down when you speak. Whatever it is that culture you're looking for, 30% is that number. Studies have shown, through social and economical studies have shown, that when a group in a neighborhood or at a university or anything, when 30% hit, then all of a sudden it's going to tip over. So sometimes when someone will get a hold of me and be like, hey man, we've got 250 to 300 people in our church, and I just took over this church, and it's real traditional, and I don't even know where to start. I said, find a nucleus that is all with you and start growing that nucleus. Meet with them separately. Okay. Do what you got to do, but get to 30%. The number is 30%. That's the tipping point for culture. So
what do you go ahead?
Go ahead. No, please
I was
go.
just gonna ask, what do you see as like a reasonable timeline for that?
that can take a little bit of while. That can take a little while, and yeah. I mean, it could be 18 months, 2 years, whatever, where you really feel like you've got momentum. But it really depends on how aggressive the pastor is being. Not pushy, but aggressive. Some guys are very slow, and I think there's wisdom in some of that. But I can think of 2 pastors right now that come to my mind. I know their name. I know exactly their church. And they've both said to me, and they're separate. They don't really even know each other. But they've both said, I've been here 10 years, and I feel like we're turning the corner. I'm like, dude, that's way slow. Like 10 years? Like, really? Yeah. And I just think that's too slow. Now, I think 10 months is probably too fast. So you got to find that balance. But it really depends on how aggressive you are. A lot of guys that are making moves and kind of shifting cultures, the fear for most pastors is they don't want to enter into the valley of tension. Yeah. There's a valley of tension that happens. So here's your church, right? You're kind of moving along. And then, if you stop that ministry, if you deal with that situation, you're going to have some people upset. Now you're going to go through the valley of tension. Once you get through that valley, you start going up. And that valley may last a year or so, or whatever it may last. But a lot of guys will stand on the edge of the valley, and they don't want to go into that valley. And that's why it's been 4 years. It's been 8 years. We're finally turning the corner, or it's been 10 years. And I always want to fire back. They're all like, why do you think it takes so long? And I said, well, if you're honestly asking me, it's because if you've been afraid to go through the valley of tension. Oh, wow. And you got to be willing to go through that valley of tension. And I'm not saying day one. I'm not even saying 5 months into it. But at some point, the tension's coming. Yeah. And you got to be willing to go through the valley of tension if you want to see this, if you want to see exponential growth. So a lot of it has to do with how aggressive the pastor is. I think there's wisdom in going slow, but not too slow. You got to find that rhythm. It's hard to just say the magic number of a certain amount of months. What I would say to it is understand you're going after 30%, and you got to be willing to go through the valley of tension, because that tension will be there. You're going to face it. And some guys are not willing to go through it because, hey, I'm going to lose. People are going to get upset, and 8 women and husbands are going to get upset at me, and 2 of them are big tithers. Like, there's a lot of reality there, and but you have to find your way through that valley of tension and know that you're making the right decision. One thing I always tell guys is, man, if you make a decision and no one gets upset, you just made a decision that nobody cares about. Wow. So, like, no one's upset with me. I'm like, that's because you're not making a decision anybody cares about. You're going to have to be willing to go through that valley. To the answer of leadership circles, if you look at the leadership ladder that Church Boom creates and that we've used in hundreds of churches, it goes church, 5 levels: church, volunteers, leaders, leadership circles, and then leadership apprenticing. So church, that's your overall body, your people. Volunteers, that's all your volunteers. Then you got some sort of leaders there. You put them in place. I have a whole different thought process on that. Then leadership circles, which you asked me about, where you get a book and you go through it with 5 to 7 people and you get like 10 groups going and everybody's talking about leadership. When you're in the leadership circle, The next level is called leadership apprenticing. It's the final level. But what's interesting is, and a lot of guys don't get, is that leadership circle is serving as I'm a big baseball fan. It's serving as your minor league team. Okay. You know, you're just kind of leadership circles. You got all these people going through circles, and you're sifting and sorting to pull one person up to start apprenticing. You ultimately want to pull a person up to start apprenticing. You might have a leadership circle with 5 people. And then after 6 months, you're like, I'm going to try another 5. These guys were not all that excited. Then you do another 5, and one of them sticks out, and one of them moves up to leadership apprenticing. And some guys are like, you mean you got to go through 2 groups to get one guy? I go, yeah, but you know as well as I know, one amazing leader can change everything. Yeah, if you get that right person. So, I say it all the time. It's like, yeah, you might go through 2 or 3 groups and you get 2 people, but 2 level 10 leaders that are loyal to you and on board with you, they'll take the church to the next level within themselves. But the leadership circle, when you're having them, we're sifting and sorting to pull people up to apprenticing. And apprenticing is usually a 6 to 12 month process. Okay. And apprenticing is, I'm training you to do what I do. It has a spiritual component, and but the reality is it's like, I'm a union plumber and you want to be a plumber. Well, you're going to follow me around for 6 months to figure out what I do. I'm a doctor, you're a resident. You're going to follow me around for a year or 2 to figure out what I do. It's the same. We do it in the corporate world all day long. Union, all day long. But for some reason, we don't do it in the church world. And it's purely like, hey, I'm a worship pastor. Okay, let's say I'm a worship pastor, you're a worship pastor. I'm working with a group, and I'm like, man, this guy Josh just has something. People love him. He's great at leading worship. I'm going to apprentice him. Well, what am I going to apprentice him about, Josh? Well, I'm going to apprentice you about how to deal with conflict. I'm going to apprentice you on how to set up music tracks, how to deal with conflict with the band, how to lead the congregation, and when they're not into it, how do you stop? How do you pause? How do you encourage? Like, I'm going to literally teach you how to lead worship. Then I'm going to start blending. Maybe you do one song, then maybe you do 2, and then finally I'm going to sit on the front row and let you do it. It's just, I am just simply training you to do. But think about the power of that. Think about your children's pastor having 3 people under him or her that are just as good. Your worship pastor having 3 or 4 people on the team just as good. Couple thoughts. The more you add services and grow, no problem. You got a depth of leadership. Oh, wait a minute. God decided to give you a campus 20 minutes away. No problem. I got a whole staff that can go over there. Yeah. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of apprenticing, but it's the 5th and final level of the leadership ladder.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah. The apprenticing stage. That's good. Hey, I guess kind of going backwards a little bit, we talked about the speed of the transition, the speed of changing the leadership of the church and everything. And admittedly, I went too slow, I think. Do I need to be intentional of, yes, I need to be, like you said, aggressive, lovingly aggressive, but is it okay to just start going forward? Or do I need to intentionally go at a little bit slower pace because I started off so slow?
Well, that would be a hard answer, because I don't know what specific topics you're talking about. I don't know the nuances of the emotions behind the people, how well they're connected, all that stuff. I do think you need, you've been there 3 years, and if you haven't felt like you haven't made any sort of moves, I think that you should start making some moves, and I'm not saying you do it all the next week or you even do it all next month, but there's got to be some moves that you start making. Wise, use wisdom, get counsel. You got one of our coaches as your coach. Ask him. He's got incredible wisdom. But you got to make some moves at some point. And so you're remembering you're doing 2 things. 'Cause at the end of the day, you're trying to shape culture. Yeah. And culture is 30%. That's got to be happening. But also you're making some moves that are going to be maybe a little tough, but you make them. And not all at once and not over a period of 10 years. But it's hard to answer that question because there are so many dynamics in a church that if I were to get into that church, meet some of the people, attend your board meeting, or go to a service and go, okay, yeah, I would do one at a time every 6 months. Or, man, I think these people are with you, man. I think you can be a little bit more aggressive. You got to find that rhythm, but you do need to start making some moves towards that. Because if you don't, it's just, it's just going to end up being you're never going to have this. It's just going to be in the same church. You got to kind of go through that valley of tension. Now, I will say that it's important whenever you're making a major change. The one thing I tell people all the time, it's an old statement, it's been around for years, that the meeting before the meeting is the most important meeting.
Yeah, I'm learning
So, don't I made a change. I announced it on Sunday. No. Board, let me tell you, there's a couple changes that are coming down the pipe. First one, I'm going to try to make it by June. The next one, I'm going to make by October. I don't know what. I'm just making this stuff up. Okay, staff, you're ready. Then I'm going to talk to the leaders and the volunteers. But before I even talk to leaders and volunteers, I know that those 4 people are going to be the issue. I'm going to meet with those 4 people before I ever tell the leaders and volunteers. So I get the leaders, I get my elders or board members, whatever, on board, the staff on board. If there's 3 or 4 people I think it affects, I have meetings with them one-on-one. And then I talk to the leaders and volunteers. By the time you do that, when you announce at the church, no one cares. Everybody already knows. Everybody that cares is going to know. If you're making a major change with a first grade class and I don't have a first grader, I really don't care. But the people that care are the people that it affects. And so there's always 3 or 4. It's never a mass amount.
Yeah.
I don't know the size of your church. Let's call it 500. It doesn't really matter. But it's not like, 285. No, it's probably 4, 5, 6 people. Just get them on board before you do it. Before you do anything public with leaders and volunteers, get them on board to the best of your ability. Because if you can get them to advocate for you, it's a slam dunk. But if you can't get them to advocate for you, then it becomes a little more difficult. And then you let them know, I'm making the change. I need you to be positive. I need you to be on board with me. Everything's not going to go your way, and I need you to be with me.
That's good. And we've made moves, to be sure. We've done remodel, changed worship style, stuff like that. But there's still some of those sacred cows that are a little, I guess there is tension. Looking over that valley of tension, as you said earlier, is a little unnerving at times with some of those sacred cows, putting them to slaughter. So.
Yep, that's a slaughter. I like that.
We're moving them to a different pasture. I don't know. We'll see.
Pasture. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, what else, man? What else you got on your mind today?
Yeah, so with all of that, with the change, with everything, when I did step in with Jason, and one of the things, he just has us refining our vision and walking through the process of making sure that it's really sharp. Our church has always had a history of, we'll start something but we don't finish it, and one of my intentions is to get rid of that. Like everything we start, I want to have an end date so that we can accomplish it, where it's not going to be just like everybody thinks we're starting an outreach and okay, we did it for 3 months and we quit.
Right.
Whatever. But with the vision of the church, when I popped in, when I took over, I didn't really spend enough time, I would say, of really refining that and getting really sharp. And it's pretty broad. It's worship God, love people, make disciples. That's generic, but and as we're spending time with it's becoming more razor sharp, at the risk of, once again, just changing. Not opposed to change, but I don't want to keep changing when that's been the MO of the church.
Yep.
How long do I need to sit on that, something that big with the vision?
When you say sit on it, what do you mean? Not do anything about it?
No. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. Really just kind of internally, staff and I have been fleshing this out and going over it. They know my heart, and they're helping make it sticky and all of that stuff, and making sure everything aligns with it, but just bringing it to the public. We've already talked about internally, staff and deacons, leadership, that we're going to be really just razor sharp on forming families and spending time in the presence of Jesus. Those two things. So from the big 3, that's really generic: worship God, every church does that, but
Yeah.
churches in this area, they don't spend time, and a lot of them are bigger churches, so they have multiple services. Not knocking that at all,
Yeah.
but we really love time in His presence, and then really focused on equipping families.
Okay.
Um, so
Yeah.
moving that from the big one to more of a focused one, how how quickly, how yeah, without, because I don't want it to be just more change at a place that, oh, okay, well, we're changing again, and almost rolling their eyes. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So changing the vision kind of statement. Okay.
Hmm.
So how long has it been since it was changed?
About 2 years.
Oh, okay. 2 years
Yeah.
ago. Okay. Um, yeah, that's pretty quick. So you were the one that changed it 2 years ago?
Yeah, for a little bit, there was not a quote unquote vision statement when I took over, and just kind of went with something that sounded good, I guess, if I'm being
Yeah.
honest.
Well, I do think that again, I would go back to a couple thoughts. I would go back to
Mhm.
the board, the staff, and then the leaders and volunteers when that time comes. I'm just thinking out loud with you. I wouldn't sit
Yeah,
around waiting. I mean, I don't want to wait on vision.
yeah,
Uh, but I think, and I'm just throwing this out there. I think a phenomenal. This is an opportunity. Two things. One,
mhm,
this is a phenomenal opportunity for you to be transparent.
gotcha.
Hey, let me tell you, leaders, I'm just pretending like I'm you. I threw it out there because I didn't have any coaching. I didn't know. It's my first time being a lead pastor, but I didn't realize that it needs to be razor focused and or laser focused. I didn't realize how sharp it needed to be. I didn't realize that strategy needed to be built behind it. I'm learning, and I've taken the last, and I would take a little time. I've taken the last 6 months. I have prayed about it. I've talked with the board. I've talked to pastors out in California, leaders, staff, coaches of mine, whatever, whatever, however you want to say it. And I feel like we finally have arrived to something that makes sense for us. And that's number one. I think it's a great opportunity for you to be transparent. Transparency done right, gains you a lot of relational equity
Okay.
because they love transparency. Just like, hey, I'm just going to be honest. I didn't really think this through, but I have now, and I've taken time, and I've met with some leaders that are ahead of me in the game, and man, and we've worked on it, and here's what we've arrived to. But then it also gives you an opportunity because you probably just threw a statement out there
Hmm.
versus let me show you how this all works.
Yeah.
This is our vision. This is our strategy. This is our values. This is how it all works together. Now it becomes like, oh man, this guy really thought it through. This isn't just like, change the banner again. It's not change the banner again.
Yeah.
It's more like, no, he's really thought it through. He's come up with a playbook.
Okay.
And I think it gives you the opportunity to do that. So to me, if I'm going to present it, I'm just giving you my opinion. If I'm going to present it on the heels of 2 years ago, I'm going to present it with a lot more than just a vision statement. I'm going to present it with an entire calling. I'm going to present it with, man, we feel God's called us. We've led to this. Here's our strategy. I want to sit there. Let's say I'm a business guy and like, wow, Josh has really thought this through. This is pretty good. He's really, like, I'm a high level business guy. I'm going to sit there and just go,
Hmm.
oh, wow. Okay. He's not just throwing something on the wall. He's really thought, yep, this makes sense. Yeah, I can see him looking at the screen or whatever. Yeah, okay, I get it. I get what he's doing. I think it's a great opportunity to be transparent, but it's a great opportunity to create what some people call an entire vision frame. Not a vision
Okay.
statement, a vision frame. And the frame is, here's the strategy. Here's the vision. Here's how the strategy supports the vision. Here's how our values support that. Here's how it works together. Here's how it affects the kind of staff we need. Here's how it affects the kind of leaders we need. Here's how it affects the time we spend in certain areas. Here's how it affects the things we do and don't do. I'm just throwing all this out there. But
Yeah.
a vision frame is different than a vision. A vision frame is, okay, here's the vision, but what's the frame around it? Like everything that supports it. You have an opportunity in my opinion, to kind of score big with if done right, with the leaders.
Yeah.
Like, wow, he
Absolutely.
has really thought this through,
Okay.
and because I do a lot of business on the side, and I have a lot of business guys and businesses. I enjoy it a lot, and I can say from a guy that probably would sit there and just go, this guy really thought this through. This ain't just some statement. He's really thought this through. This is good. and you can get there. So I don't think you have to wait forever to get there, but I wouldn't present it. Would not present it just as a statement by itself. Present the frame, not just the vision statement.
Okay. Love it. The frame, vision frame. Yep. I like that.
Frame with the stuff that supports the picture. So anyway, man, hey man, I'm checking the time and I got to jump, but, and jump on the next call I got going on. But, man, it's awesome to be able to hang out with you and love hearing what God's doing in your church. Oh, of course, man. And anything you need, man, you got my cell number. You got one of the Church Boom coaches. Reach out to me anytime. Just know that Church Boom is all in with helping Josh win. And that's just what we want to do. Yeah.
Awesome. Love it.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Have a good day, my man. Bye-bye.
You too.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Joshua, great pastor, and what a great conversation about changing culture. I want to remind you to check out all things Church Boom at churchboom.org. Go to churchboom.org. We got a lot of things there for you. I think leaders are learners, so get involved with all things that are happening through Church Boom. I know it'll help you a ton, and we're always praying for you. We're believing God for great things as you continue to minister. So have a great week, and we'll see you on the next podcast.